Shalom uvracha from Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. With the help of Hashem, we continue our joint study of Pirkei Avot. Tonight's study, Chapter 2, Mishna 17, Part 3. We're in the middle of the study of Rabbi Yossi's great teachings. Many of the rabbis here had Hema Meru, Shlosha Devarim, and the great commentaries try to show a certain level of connection, of a common denominator between the three teachings of each of these great rabbis. Last week we studied about Rabbi Yossi's teaching of Hatkein Atzmach Alul Mod Torah, diligence in Torah. 2 weeks ago we studied about Rabbi Yossi's teaching and instruction about sensitivity to other people's money. He concludes the Mishnah with the following words. He says, V'chol ma'asecha Yehiu l'shem Shamay. And everything that you do, all of your activities, all of your endeavors, should have something to do with God. Yehiu l'shem Shamayim, shall be directed for the sake of heaven. Now, it's relatively easy to understand how when a person studies Torah, it's l'shem Shamayim. It's in order to get closer to God and to get closer to God's Word. It's relatively easy to understand that prayer has something to do with connection to God. But according to most commentaries, when he teaches V'chol ma'asecha Yehyu l'shem Shamayim, everything you do, that's quite challenging. If a person is indulging in eating or in drinking, a person should do so l'shem Shamayim. What does that mean? Does it mean that they should deny themselves, God forbid, the enjoyment of eating and drinking? I don't think so. Not only that, but surprisingly, we have all kinds of laws which teach us that even in the fulfillment of commandments which are physical, we're supposed to enjoy those commandments. For instance, there's a teaching in the Torah, biblical requirement, that on the night of Pesach, the first night of Pesach, we are biblically required to eat matzot. Ba'erev, tochlu matzot. A special kind of matzah cracker. I'm sure most people watching or participating know what we're talking about, matzot. I would think that the higher level of eating matzot is maybe to eat all day. Maybe a person should be involved in eating and drinking all day. And then at night, okay, there's a biblical commandment of matzah. Okay, I'll somehow, eat the matzah l'shem Shamayim. Right? I won't enjoy the matzah, of course, because I've already eaten and consumed foods and drinks all day. And there are teachings in rabbinic literature about certain limitations of food intake on Erev Pesach. And K'dei she'yochal matzah l'te'avon. He should enjoy. Why should he enjoy? L'shem Shamayim. And not only that, there are laws. We don't eat matzah on Erev Pesach. We don't eat matzah on Erev Pesach. In the Talmud Yerushalmi, they compare someone who eats matzah on Erev Pesach to someone who can't wait to sleep with their fiancé and before they get married. It's like tonight's the wedding. It's like, okay, so wait to eat the matzah tonight. Hilubal arusatho b'veit chamiv is the language I believe of the Talmud Yerushalmi. The opposite, I would think, that if we want to eat l'shem Shamayim, if you want to eat matzah l'shem Shamayim, there should be a law. You should sit a whole day of Pesach and eat matzah. And tonight, when you eat matzah on the night of Pesach, it's surely not because I'm hungry, because I've consumed many pounds of matzah in the last day. So why am I eating matzah tonight? L'shem Shamayim. And they have this strange concept that we should eat matzah l'te'avon. When I first came, Baruch Hashem, with Henny Zichronah L'Bracha to Eretz Yisrael, so there were some people when people are about to start the meal, they say, or they start eating, l'te'avon, bon appetit. I hope that you have a hearty appetite. And I heard one rabbi once say, well, what kind of blessing is that? he has to eat the te'avon. He won't eat the te'avon. So what'll be so bad? He has a 7-course dinner. It has to be the te'avon. And he said that the higher blessing should be, la briut. It should be a healthy or healthful meal. La sova. You should be satiated and satisfied. But we do find this concept. You can't deny this concept. That somehow the higher level of eating matzah is when you're eating matzah with a certain desire to eat matzah. And that does not contradict the concept of l'shem shamayim. In fact, there are communities that stop eating matzah 2 weeks before Pesach. The Rama mentioned such a custom from Rosh Chodesh Nisan already, 2 weeks before Pesach, not to eat matzah. And there are communities, I believe maybe Hasidic community, they don't eat matzah after Purim in certain communities, a whole month before Pesach. And there were certain Sephardic communities, I have friends in the Sephardic world, they don't touch matzah from one Pesach to the next Pesach. They have nothing to do with matzah, So matzah l'shem shamayim is connected to matzah l'shem te'avon. So when it says kol ma'asecha yihyu l'shem shamayim, it should not be misunderstood to mean, okay, don't enjoy anything, take whatever food you have and pour, layers and layers and layers of salt on it so that you should enjoy it, God forbid. I remember Rabbi Miller speaking often about this concept of l'shem shamayim and how to enjoy the world, even though one can misunderstand these words to mean solely for the sake of heaven. The sake of heaven includes the level of enjoyment and proper living and happy living, so that those who wrote the commentaries on the Mishnah pointed out that all of your activities, you're sleeping l'shem shamayim. You're sleeping l'shem shamayim. You're sleeping because you're tired. You say, well, yes, you're tired, but you're going to sleep, so you should have energy to live to live at a level of a mensch, to be productive tomorrow. Why do you want to be productive tomorrow? It's all part of a personality of acting properly in the way of God. And the long list, probably without end, of all the different kinds of activities. If you're interested in a detailed list, you can look at some of the commentaries on our Mishnah, or look in the 5th chapter of the introductory chapters of Maimonides' commentary on Pirkei Avot. There's a very long list in Perek Hamishi, in the 5th chapter. He speaks about so many of the activities of human beings, and he says that if you're doing it for briut haguf, you're doing it to be healthy, you're doing it to be normal, you're doing it to reach certain levels of calm. That's l'shem shamayim. That's what it means, l'shem shamayim. If you're listening to music because you don't want to fall, God forbid, into depression, so that's a form of l'shem shamayim. If a person has a certain kind of home design or decoration or decor, that's l'shem shamayim. And this concept, of course, has to be expanded, but it means that God should be included in everything that you're doing. There's no action of ours that I can think of now that's outside of the realm of kol ma'asecha, perhaps with an emphasis on the word kol. All of your activities should be connected somewhat to God. Maybe some of them directly connected to God, some of them are indirectly connected to God, but all of our activities are l'shem shamayim. There is a Talmudic teaching in Tractate Brachot, the very last chapter of Masechet Brachot, and it says there that the sentence that's all-encompassing, Ezohi parasha kitana, shekol gufei Torah tluyim ba, a short sentence which includes everything. Now, the rabbis point to the sentence in the 3rd chapter of Proverbs, B'chal drachecha da'ehu. B'chal drachecha da'ehu. Know God in all of your ways. That's more or less the teaching here in our Mishnah of Rabbi Yossi. Of course, there were variations. The rabbi in the Gemara, the rabbi in the Gemara is not saying exactly the same words or the same levels of language, but more or less it's a similar teaching. This is a teaching of Bar Kapara, Ezohi Parasha Ketana. If you're interested, it's in the Talmud, page 63 of Berachot. Ezohi Parasha Ketana, Shekol Gufei Torah Tliyim Ba, V'chol D'rachecha Da'ehu. Know God in everything. Everything. Take God with you, whatever you do, just take God with you. Travel with God, walk with God, smile with God, celebrate, always with God. Eto Elokim Hitalech Noah. Walk with God. Hitalech Lefanai. And then Rava says a very fascinating. I have two texts of the Gemara open in front of me. One is the text of as printed in the Talmud Bavli standard editions, and one is the text of the Talmud as is printed in the Ein Yaakov editions. Of course, in certain manuscripts they have this as part of the text. In our text, in the standard text of the Talmud, it says, "What do you mean b'chol d'rachecha da'ehu? B'chol d'rachecha." So Rava says, "Afilu l'dvar avira." Know God in all your ways, even when you sin. Now, that seems to be almost self-contradictory, right? If you're sinning, how could you know God? I mean, seemingly sin is the opposite of knowing God. And there's a vast literature trying to explain what does he mean? B'chol d'rachecha da'ehu afilu l'dvar avira. Now you could interpret it to mean that maybe even in sin, some people have this attitude. If a person is going to sin already, so what's the difference? A little sin, level 2, a major sin, level 4, a higher level sin, level 7, or 10. Well, it's a sin. A sin is a sin. A sin is a sin. Maybe b'chol d'rachecha da'ehu l'shem shamayim. Maybe there are gradations. The Gemara discusses in one place where they had two different arrangements of trying to take care of a certain kind of a moral issue or a certain kind of level of removing temptation. So the Gemara suggests there's derech aleph and derech bet. There are two ways of doing it. And the Gemara says, why do you need? And then the rabbis comment that this level is greater than that level. What's the difference? Which is the greater level? I mean, so the Gemara says that if you have a choice between A or B, and let's say there are two problematic levels of behavior. Problematic level A, problematic level B. They're both not good. So what do you have to discuss? One is better than the other. The rabbis say, because if you can't reach level A, let's say at least you can remove level B. And level B maybe is less problematic than level A. B'chol d'rachecha da'ehu afilu l'dvar avira kol ma'asecha. Could you imagine someone who's about to sin, who's thinking l'shem shamayim? It's like a fascinating way of worshiping God. Now, the textual difference. That's why I have these texts open in front of me. You could look at any standard edition of Ein Yaakov, which is the Agadic compilation of the Talmud. It doesn't have most of the halachic literature. Roughly, I think it's about 1/6 of Shas, maybe a little bit more. All the Agadot, all the stories, all the teachings, all the philosophy and analysis of concepts of Judaism, Ein Yaakov. In here, and of course, if you look at variant readings on Brachot, we have many works to put together all the manuscript, but there is a reading in the Ein Yaakov. It's printed in the parentheses, but where it says Amar Rav Papa. Rav Papa says, "Oh, afilu dvar avera, hainu da'arei inshe." This is that which the people say. The criminals, the people who are involved in thievery, the thieves, they're about to break in to steal, and they start praying as they're about to carry out their great heist. Like they're about to God forbid break into the bank, and they're standing there and they stop for a moment. They stop for a moment to pray. Now it sounds to be sacrilegious. It sounds like this is absurd. What do you mean? If you're doing something wrong, you should pray that it should be successful. Amara Papa. Now this needs clarification, because there are two ways of reading this text. Is this a criticism of these people, or is this a praise of these people? Amara Papa, Hainu Damrein Shei Reb Papa very often in Talmud. He says, well, that's what people say all the time. Ganava, the ganav, the thief. Apum mahtarta. On the opening of he's about to break into the house. Instead of in bamachteret yimatzei haganav. That's where you get the expression. He's about to break in. Rahamana kare. He's calling out to God. He's calling out to the merciful one. B'chol drachecha da'eir. Now, is this text meant to be a criticism? Like, this is ridiculous. Is this like they're silly? Or if in context, is this a compliment for those people? What do you think? Is this a compliment for the people? They're praying to be successful in their sin? That's a sin. You're not allowed to break into someone's house. What are you praying? Not to pray. You should pray that you shouldn't break into the house. How do you understand it?
The Jews have emunah.
I'm sorry?
The Jews have emunah.
I know they have emunah. I'm saying, does Rav Papa mean in this sentence that they are fulfilling b'chol drachecha da'eir? Or this is a mistaken understanding of b'chol drachecha da'eir? Or is he saying, no, b'chol, whatever you're doing, just, hold God's hand even when you're doing the wrong thing? What are you saying? Please speak louder. They can't possibly hear you.
My personal view is the different levels of spiritual development. So people are progressing gradually. So even some rabbis said, Avodah Zarah compared to atheism is better relatively because it shows there is a God. So those people think maybe they're doing good, but actually when we become tzaddikim, they would change it for better. They wouldn't do such things at all. So it's like a level maybe.
You mean at least they're at least getting into the mode of prayer. They're praying for the wrong thing, right? They're praying for the wrong thing. They get into their car on Shabbat and they're praying that they say Tfilat HaDerech. I mean, that sounds like God, totally chaynu l'shalom, tatzideh. Shabbat afternoon, where are you going? How do you read it? What do you feel? Yes? Just speak loudly because there's a
I think it's to their credit. Just because they're doing one thing wrong doesn't mean they shouldn't do another thing right. And they could have just as easily gone in there and thought that every bit of success they have is through their own actions. Here he stops and recognizes that every bit of success he has is through Hashem.
It's not vulgar. It's not like Botzea Bereich Nietz Hashem. It's not like mocking God. It's the rabbis teach. I mean, about saying blessings in certain places. What do you feel? But speak loudly, please. I can hear you. First, I don't think the camera's going to pick it up.
First, unless it can see it behind itself.
No, come closer.
Whatever you're saying. Yeah.
Come closer.
First,
take
it
it
could
easy.
Got so many. It could be that they actually think of themselves as doing good. They have to support their family. They think that somebody doesn't have wealth properly, and so they're praying to God that way. It could also be that they're just praying to God for success, and they don't think of themselves as bad. And it could also be like we say there are no atheists in foxholes. What is he doing in a foxhole? He's in the process of trying to kill somebody, possibly over nothing. But people pray
or
in
he's
the
being
foxhole.
shot at.
He's
being
shot at, and he's shooting at somebody else. So it doesn't necessarily have to be one way or the other. It could be a combination of all of them. And it's not necessarily putting people down. It's it could also be addressing hypocrisy, but it could be that they're that the thief thinks of himself as good and asks God for help.
It could be that's why it's done in most of the editions of the Talmud, right? In other words, maybe there was like an inner censorship. If this is teaching about Papa, generally we wouldn't.
Things could sometimes mean both opposites.
Could be. In other words, there is this notion that even if someone is doing something wrong, let's say my example from before, if God forbid someone is desecrating the Shabbat, yes, we hope that this Shabbat already should be the Shabbat that the entire Jewish people, these 14 million of them all over the world, keep Shabbat with the help of Hashem, the highest level of happiness and purity. But let's say someone is desecrating the Shabbat. So it would seem that afilu dvar avera would mean now they're eating lunch somewhere. They stop for a lunch break. maybe they should say kiddush. Maybe they should have the double loaf of bread of lechem Mishna. Maybe they should eat special food. Maybe they should make sure the food is kosher. That's how somebody passed by. What do you care about whether the food is kosher? You don't even care about Shabbat. Okay, Shabbat. Shabbat. I can't observe, but I can keep kosher. I met this woman once. Hashem should bless her. I'm not saying what she's doing is correct, but she told me that she doesn't keep the halachic Shabbat. She drives on Shabbat. And she understands it to be a violation of lo teva'aru eish. It says in the Torah, you're not supposed to ignite any kind of combustion or fire on Shabbat. But she says she never drives with the air conditioner on. She never drives with the air conditioner on Shabbat. Now, this is her own, this is not something you'll see in the responsa literature necessarily. Right? It's like, what? I said, so when she first said, she said, look, I'm driving on Shabbat, and I know they're driving on Shabbat, so I don't want to feel, absolutely so comfortable. So I drive on Shabbat without an air conditioner. I never go into my car. I'm just talking, of course, in the warm months of spring and summer. So my first reaction is, what are you talking about, right? And then I thought, maybe she's the embodiment. Maybe she's the fulfillment. Even if she knows. She told me. She thinks she should not be driving. So there's a symbolic action in her driving on Shabbat, which is part of what maybe Rabbi Yosef meant. V'chal ba'asecha yehyu l'shem shamayim, which is interpreted in the Gemara to mean even afilu l'dvar avera. May each of us, in his or her own way, try to serve God in all of our actions, in the totality of our beings, not to put God into a compartment of, in the synagogue I carry out religious activities, in the yeshiva, that's where everywhere, in the entirety of our beings, wherever we are, whatever we're doing, each one in his or her own way, in whatever extent they can, to bring some godly aspect into our lives. Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, shakol bara l'chvodo. Everything in the world can be connected to the glory of God. Rabbi Yossi Omer, kol ma'asecha yehyu l'shem shamayim. Thank you so much for listening. Shalom.
Amen.